Yes.
Okay.
Irina, you ready to roll?
We're ready.
She's the boss. Good afternoon, everyone. It's so nice for you to come out, as they say, the dog's day of summer, right? And so on behalf of Let's Talk Vero and Riverside Theatre, it's truly our pleasure to see you this afternoon. And of course, also on behalf of Irina Wolfley and her son, Jonathan Buckley. Now, I want to share with you that you're sitting in the largest small-town, non-profit professional theater in the United States. And they have been terrific community partners, because one of their goals long-term is, they said, we would love for the theater to be the living room of our community. And so hence they've been very gracious to offer us the space and the wonderful help. They're doing this on a volunteer basis tonight. And I'm supposed to let you know the bar is open till 6:30. So please drink and be merry, because they do need to make some revenues. So, but nevertheless, we're most appreciative to the theater and their staff to help us out tonight. And so tonight, it's our treat to welcome Leslie Swan, who, as you know, is our election supervisor. And we thought this was a perfect time for her to share with you what's ahead and what you can do to become engaged as a voter here in our community. And Let's Talk Vero basically has three things that it would always like to share. I call it the 3 E's. It's to engage, to enlighten, and to educate. And so hopefully we leave here tonight and know a little bit more than we did when we rolled in here around 5 o'clock this afternoon. It's also, it's going to be my pleasure to introduce Jonathan Buckley. That's Irina's son, who is getting right now a master's in communications management at USC. And, but he is going to show us some slides from downtown Vero that were first made public in early February, and we thought it might be nice for you to take a look again, how the proposed plan looks after all. And then last but certainly not least, it'll be my pleasure to bring up Mayor John Coutinho, who's going to give us an update on Three Corners. And obviously, part of the narrative is change, and whether we embrace it or not. And so, last year we did a function for a gentleman that was a traffic expert, and I had mentioned to that group that Vero Beach actually was originally called Vero. And not until September 28, 1995, September 28, 1925, somebody called Waldo Sexton made a pitch to city council and said, hey, I'm trying to get some people to come down here, and I want to build a golf course, and I want to bring people down to Vero to play golf. So in 1925, he made his proposal to the local city council at that time, and he said, I think this could be a much more marketable place if we could add the word beach. So September 28, 1925, we became Vero Beach. So I think, so in other words, we've been trying to change now for almost 100 years. At the pace maybe of snails and turtles, but we're going to give it our best shot. Leslie is most accomplished. She's hanging out right here behind me. So let me tell you real quick about Leslie. And so, as I said, she's our supervisor of elections. She's a longtime Vero Beach resident, and she has worked in the elections office since 2004. She's had extensive election experience and has been involved with the planning and implementation of 41 elections here in our county. During a 20-year tenure in the elections office, Leslie has served as the voter outreach coordinator, the assistant supervisor of elections, and was appointed supervisor of elections in March of 2011 by Governor Rick Scott. She was elected to a 4-year term in 2012 and ran unopposed in 2016, 2020, and 2024. Leslie, what you didn't put in your bio for me, I Googled you, and I found something you put one of your candidate statements in August of 2015. But I pulled it out because I like really what you said. You said, "I'm not a politician. I'm an election professional dedicated to serving the public, and I pledge that the services provided by the elections office will continue to be administered in an impartial and nonpartisan manner." 2015, I thought that was really good. So Leslie has attained her Master's Florida Certified Elections Professional Certification, and she has earned national certification as a certified elections and registration administrator. And Leslie, also what you didn't put in your bio was that in the United States, there are only 860 of you that have this designation out of 21,000. So we have a well-qualified representative. And she's been married to Mr. Swan right here in the purple tie, very nice, for 39 years. And Michael is a partner with the law firm of Rossway Swan. And they have 3 adult children and 4 grandboys. So without further ado, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Leslie. She's much more organized than I am. I have pieces of paper. Hers is like laminated type. It's really good. It's really great.
Thank you, Vero, and I want to extend my appreciation to all of you for being here today, and to Jonathan and Irina for extending me this invitation. You know, it's election time here in Indian River County, as evidenced by all of the campaign signs, and you turn on the radio, you hear the ads for the candidates. Also, your mailboxes are becoming rather full with the flyers from those candidates that are running for office. You know, voters show up to vote on election day or at an early voting site, and I think this is pretty easy. You know, I check in with my ID, I get my ballot, I vote it, and I put it in the tabulation system, but they never really think about how this whole entire process works. You know, candidate qualifying for the primary and the general election ended at noon on Friday, June 14th. And that was just the beginning of a long period that ends with the general election in November. You know, qualifying week is really the unofficial beginning of the primary election, which will be held on August 20th. And once the candidates have been certified, the hard work of building the ballot begins. After that, the pace accelerates dramatically. With the ballots created, the next step is we mail these ballots first to our military and overseas voters, and they go out, the ballots, 45 days before the election. And then just last week, we sent out the domestic ballots, which we had 21,764 ballots that went out last Thursday. And then it's 8 days of early voting for the primary election. And in between that, tens of thousands of sample ballots are going out, and actually they're in the mail right now. We train hundreds of poll workers, and our voting equipment, we program it and we test it, and then we test it again and we test it again to make sure that everything is perfectly accurate. And all of this takes place over the course of several months. And then we do it all over again for the general election. And you know, people don't realize, but our office kind of does all of the logistics for the elections, but there's actually a board of individuals who oversee the election. And that's what's called the canvassing board. And they are made up of a county court judge, the chair of the board of county commissioners, and the supervisor of elections. If one of those people cannot serve because they're either on the ballot or they have a conflict and can't be there, then we have some alternates that fill in. And these people make the final decision. Let's say that somebody sends in their mail ballot, and when we check it with our office, we feel like the signature doesn't match. The voter has an opportunity to correct that, but if they don't, it's the canvassing board that has the final decision on whether that ballot is accepted or rejected. And here in the state of Florida, we have lots of opportunities for voters to vote. And I have to tell you, not all states have the same election laws as we do in the state of Florida. And we allow people to vote many different ways. You can either vote the traditional method of voting on election day at your polling place. You can vote during the early voting period, or you can vote by mail. And not all states have early voting. There's all different rules and laws. And you know, speaking of mail ballots, you know, I hear people disparage them a lot. And I have to tell you that the state of Florida has strict laws when it comes to voting by mail. And we just don't blanketly send out mail ballots. You have to have a request on file in order to receive that ballot. And then they tightened up the law. In order to request that ballot, you have to provide us either your Florida driver's license or your the last 4 digits of your social security number, so we can check that information on your voter record and make sure it's actually you that is voting, requesting that ballot. In addition, if you want that ballot mailed to an address other than your address here in Indian River County, you have to provide that request in writing to us and sign the request so we can verify the signature with your signature on your voter record. And our mail ballots cannot be forwarded. And I can tell you of the almost 22,000 ballots that we just mailed out last Thursday, we're gonna start getting trays of those ballots back to us with little yellow stickers that say undeliverable or temporarily away. Because people, when they make these requests for ballots, they don't think of where they're gonna be when the ballots go out. And we have a lot of seasonal residents here, and they don't think that, oh, I'm gonna be at my summer house up north. So when those ballots come back to our office, the day they come back, the team at the elections office looks at the voter's record to see whether or not they have a email address, do they have a phone number that we can reach out to those folks. We stay late into the night trying to contact people. And every one of those ballots that comes back to our office, we are required by law to send a letter by forwardable mail because we may not have a phone number or an email address, because we want to make sure that we can get a replacement out to you and it's going to get to where you are at that particular moment. Also, when those ballots come back to our office, we verify every single signature on those ballots that come back. And I'm telling you, during the pandemic, we sent out over 55,000 mail ballots. So there was a lot of verifying going on. And anyone in my office that verifies signatures has to take a signature verification class. That's part of the law in Florida. If your signature is flagged as either not matching any of the signatures on your voter record, or if you leave the certificate envelope blank, we reach out to you again, because you have a way now with the law to cure that ballot. You can fill out a cure affidavit form, and it's very easy. We will email you the form. You can fill it out, and then take a picture of it with your phone, take a picture of your ID, and email it back to us, and that will cure your ballot for you, so that ballot will count. Another recent change to the law is you used to be able to request your mail ballots through 2 general election cycles, and that was almost 4 years. Well, now they've dialed that back, the legislature, and every general election cycle you have to request that mail ballot. So if you request your mail ballot today, it's good through the primary election, the general election of this year, but then you have to renew that request after this year's general election. And one thing that happens quite often is when you return those ballots, we have people that want to return the ballots to their election day polling place. We can't accept them there because the election workers don't get back to our office on election night till after 7 p.m. And that is the deadline when these mail ballots are due in our office in order to be counted. And you can return your mail ballot either through the U.S. Postal Facility, you can come to our office and turn it in person. Also during the early voting period, at each of our 3 early voting sites, at the Supervisor of Elections office, at the main library in Vero Beach, or Sebastian City Hall council chambers, you can return your mail ballot during the early voting dates and times that early voting is offered. And those ballots are transported back every night to the elections office. You can also check the status of your mail ballot. You can go onto our website and look in your specific record and see the date you requested the ballot, the date we mailed the ballot out, and the date that the ballot was returned, voted to the elections office, and if there were any problems with your ballot. And let's see. Okay, so then we are mailing out sample ballots as well. And those we are getting out a little bit earlier than we usually get out. You usually receive them right before early voting starts, and we thought it was important to get those sample ballots out early, so they should be in your mailboxes within the next couple of days. And, you know, I have people all the time say to me, you know, how do I know my vote counts? You know, how do I know you counted it correctly? Well, here in the state of Florida, since 2007, the law has required every county to conduct a post-election audit after each election. And when we started out, a precinct and a race were randomly selected by our canvassing board. And then what we would do is we would collect all the ballots from that precinct and race, whether they were voted by mail, at an early voting site, or an election day. And we would gather groups of people together to hand count the votes in that particular race at a publicly noticed meeting. Anybody could come and watch what we were doing, and then we would compare it with the tabulation results. Well, in 2013, the law broadened and it allowed us to use an independent auditing system. And our Board of County Commissioners is amazing. They gave me the funds in order to get this independent auditing system, so we implemented it in 2020. And the advantage of the system is it recounts every ballot card and every race on the ballot card. So if you're not familiar with how the tabulation system works, in our office, we tabulate all the vote by mail ballots with our high-speed tabulators. And then you all, when you vote in person at an early voting site or at an election day polling place, you deposit your ballot in the precinct tabulator, and then we combine all of the results. So with our independent auditing system, then we take every single one of those ballot cards and run them through our independent auditing system. And yes, it's a lot more work on my staff, and it's labor intensive. And it's basically 2 scanners. They're not connected to the internet. They are not connected to our tabulation system. And so we get those results and we compare them to our tabulation system results. And I have to tell you that since we've been conducting post-election audits since 2007 here in Indian River County, every time we've had 35 elections and the results have been accurate every single time. So I have to say that enthusiastic participation in the elections process is a sign of a healthy democracy, where citizens are actively engaged in the political process. Now, it's really important, I encourage everyone, you want to make sure you're election ready for this upcoming election. And you need to check if you have moved. You need to update your address with our office. You can do it online on our website at voteindianriver.gov. Did your name change? Did you get married? You want to make sure you update that information. But something else that's really important is your signature. We verify your signature if you vote by mail. We verify your signature if you sign a candidate petition or whether you sign an initiative petition. So it's really important that that signature is up to date. And you can do that on a Florida voter registration application. Because we have a lot of people who maybe have an illness or their hand shakes. And even if you can't write your name, you can write an identifying mark to update your signature. And as long as we have that in your voter record and you sign your mail ballot that way, your ballot will count. So it's really important that you do that. But another part of being election ready is knowing what is on the ballot and understand what the different races are. And like I said, in Florida, we have a lot of new people that have moved from other states, and their election laws are different. The state of Florida is a closed primary state, and it has been since 1913. So I kind of wanted to take you through the ballot because we have been getting so many questions. We've taught the poll workers that are going to be working the election exactly how to explain to the voters some of the issues that are on the upcoming primary election ballot. So if you look here, we are one of 12 states that are closed primary states, and every one that's highlighted in green runs closed primary elections. Okay, closed primary elections, what are they? It deals only with the partisan races that are on the ballot. So only registered voters who have declared a political party affiliation can vote in that party's primary election. And so typically it's the two major parties, the Democrat and the Republican Party. Now, one year we did have a libertarian ballot, so we had another ballot style. So we have 3 different ballot styles that we're mailing out or when you go to vote in person on election day. We have the Democratic Party ballot, the Republican Party ballot, and a nonpartisan ballot. So let's take, for instance, there are 2 partisan races that are on the ballot. We have the U.S. Senator's race, and on the Democratic Party, they have 4 candidates that have qualified for the U.S. Senate race for the Democratic Party. So when you get the Democratic ballot, if that's how you registered, this race will be on your ballot. The Republicans also have their own primary contest for U.S. Senate, and they have 3 candidates on their ballot. So the winner of the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate and the winner of the Republican primary will go against each other in the general election. But also on that general election ballot will be any candidates that qualified for U.S. Senate with no party affiliation, as one of the minor parties, or a write-in candidate. The second one that has partisan primaries is the congressional race, District 8. The Democrat ballot is going to have 2 candidates on there. The Republican ballot has 3 Republican candidates, and so the winner of the Democratic primary is going to face off against the winner of the Republican primary, plus any no party affiliation candidates, minor party candidates, or write-in candidates. In addition to these partisan races, there are universal primary contests and nonpartisan races on the ballot. So what is a universal primary contest? This is a contest where all the candidates that qualify for the office are of the same party affiliation. So the winner is going to be determined in the primary election, so it opens up the primary so that all 3 ballot styles are going to have any universal primary contest race on the ballot. So we actually have 3 of those races in the primary election. The first one is the tax collector's race. These 2 ladies were the only 2 that qualified for this position, and they're both Republicans, so it opens up the primary, and all 3 ballot styles are going to have this race. And people sometimes say to me, oh, well, I'm registered Democrat and I got my ballot and it's got Republicans on there. Well, the reason is because it's a universal primary race and the winner is going to be determined during the primary. We have 2 other universal primary contests. We'll jump into those in a minute. And the Board of County Commissioner districts. People get confused all the time. The candidate has to live in the district. Everyone in the county is allowed to vote in any of the districts that are up for election. So we have 2 county commission districts that are universal primary contests. County Commission District 1, both candidates are Republican. It opens the primary and everyone's allowed to vote in that race because the race will be over in the primary. Same thing with County Commission District 3. It's a universal primary contest. All the candidates were Republican. It opens it up and everyone will see that race and have an opportunity to cast their ballot in that race. So then we move on. We have nonpartisan races on the ballot. And judicial races and school board races are nonpartisan. So these candidates cannot campaign with a party affiliation, or they can't qualify for the office indicating their party affiliation. School district candidates, they have to reside within the district, just like a Board of County Commissioner candidate, but anyone in the county is eligible. They're elected at large. So we have District 3 that's up for election and District 5 that are up for election. And there's only 2 candidates in each one of these contests, so the winner will be determined at the primary election. So here are the 2 candidates for District 3, and they will appear on everyone's ballot, and the candidates for District 5, which will also appear on everyone's ballot. Okay, if it wasn't confusing enough, this is where it gets really tricky. Okay, we have write-in candidates, and this is something that's in Florida election law. When you qualify for a candidate, you can either go out and collect petitions. If you don't want to collect petitions, you can pay a qualifying fee, or you can qualify as a write-in candidate. Write-in candidates do not get their name printed on the ballot. There's a little bubble there. Someone would have to fill in the bubble and write their name in on the line. But these candidates jump right to the general election. So, just to give you an example, this is the general election from 2022 for U.S. Senator. The Republican candidate that was nominated in the primary was Marco Rubio. The Democratic candidate that was elected in the primary was Val Demings. And then you had a few other candidates. One is a minor party candidate, 2 are no party affiliation, and a write-in candidate. So that's what it looks like when they get to the general election. So we have 2 races where individuals qualify to be write-in candidates. We have the sheriff's race and the Board of County Commissioners District 5. So the only people that are going to see the sheriff's race on their ballot are registered Republicans, because once that write-in got in the race, it closed the primary. So the winner of these three gentlemen will go up against the write-in candidate in the general election. And it's the same thing. Well, when they go to the general election, that will be it, but it's not over in the primary.
I'm new to Florida voting, so I'm a little confused. So if I just wanted to be a write-in candidate, I could just say, I want to be a write-in candidate and fill out everything.
The requirements for a write-in candidate.
My understanding is you have universal ballot, so the 3 Republicans, it's universal, everybody can come in and vote. But then somebody decides to be a write-in if they didn't do their due diligence to get on the ballot. Now it's not closed.
Yes.
Repeat the question.
Yes.
So we get all here.
What she's mentioning is that you have someone that can just jump in and close the primary election. They're allowed to do that. The only thing they have to do besides filling in the qualifying paperwork is they have to turn in their candidate reports of their finances, and they have to turn in a financial statement, a Form 6. They don't get their name on the ballot, but yes, you're right.
but essentially they just closed the primary.
Right. And we have the same thing with the Board of County Commissioners, District 5. We have these two ladies that are both Republicans, and the winner of this race will go against the write-in candidate in the general election.
Also, the writing candidate stays through the general.
Yeah, that's the only time
Even
they're
though
on the
they
ballot,
closed the primary, they still went to be on the election one.
the general election. There's one other thing that is sort of on this ballot. Usually the municipal elections are always held in November for the general election. The city of Fellsmere had a city council member who had to resign, and so their city charter calls for a special election. So we worked with the city of Fellsmere, and they said, okay, we'll go ahead and put it on the primary election ballot. They had their qualifying. The two gentlemen were on the ballot, they're on the sample ballot, and I got a call last week that one of them withdrew. So that means the other one automatically wins. So in precinct 2, you'll probably see signs in the voting booth if you live within the city of Fellsmere saying that someone has withdrawn, so this kind of election is sort of null and void since the candidate dropped out. So what we're trying to do is get out the word, because there are so many questions about what is going to be on your ballot when you receive it. So this is on our homepage. We have the 3 different ballot styles. We have what races will be on those ballot styles. And you'll notice in the Republican ballot, on the very bottom, the Republicans select their precinct committee man and, state committee man and state committee woman every 4 years at the primary. So that will be on the Republican ballots only. And then if you look on the bottom on our website, you press any one of those orange squares and it will bring up the entire ballot and show you what's going to be on your ballot, depending on what your party affiliation is. Now, the deadline to register to vote to participate in this election is 29 days before the election. You can also change your party affiliation 29 days before the election. So if there's a specific candidate that you want to vote for, it is your prerogative if you want to change your party affiliation to be able to vote in that primary. So if you want to do that, actually we have forms on the table. So if you want to register to vote, if you want to change your party affiliation, we also have applications if you would like to get a vote by mail ballot. You can also do this online at registeredvoteflorida.gov, as long as you can provide your driver's license number and the last 4 digits of your social security number. And this is our website, and our website is packed full of information at voteindianriver.gov. Right now, we already have our turnout module on there, so you can see daily how many voted mail ballots come back to our office. You can sort it by party, by precinct, and then when we start with the early voting period, you can see the turnout, and it's updated every 10 minutes at each of the different locations throughout the county, and the same thing on election day. So anything you need to know about elections is right on our website. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank my staff. I have the most dedicated individuals that come into work day in, day out. They stay late, they have smiles on their faces, and they are wonderful. So I just have to thank them.
We do have a microphone set up right here, if anybody is brave enough to come up and wants to ask a question. If so, we'd like for you to use the microphone, because since it's a public meeting, we videotape it. But, so can I ask you a question,
Yes.
Leslie? All right, so you are, let's say if you are a registered Democrat or independent, and you wish to vote in the County Commission District 5 race, you need to change your vote, your registration. Is that what you tried to say in a nice way?
Yes.
Okay. And to prep for this meeting, I actually tried to change my registration. I did it on my phone, it took less than 5 minutes. So, you got a great website. So that's the, as they say, workaround.
Yeah,
And then you could then,
You could switch it
and then
back.
switch it back. What's the deadline to switch it back before the presidential election?
It doesn't matter for the presidential election. not a closed primary,
Okay.
so it doesn't matter, you can
So-
do it anytime after.
Alright, so if you're now here, you're an independent, you wanna vote, so you need to change your registration to Republican, and then you're good to roll to vote in District 5, let's say in this example, and then it doesn't matter for the general election.
No, but then you're also cutting yourself off from the Democratic candidates if you wanted to vote for someone there, so it's a trade-off.
Okay, so I thought it was reasonably well educated, but this is, we're both Florida Gators, by the way. All right, so, Linda. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Linda Moore, Vice Mayor of the City of Vero Beach. Leslie, let me start by saying, you do an amazing job. I am a huge fan. I have been aware of all of the things you just explained about the write-in candidate rule and have been disgusted and dismayed by it for many, many, many years. So I feel like I'm not alone. There are other people in the audience that maybe are equally disgusted by the fact that some college kid can just say, no, 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 I just wanted to close the primary. Clearly, you do not have the ability to change that law, nor do I, nor do anyone on the county level. It's a state level thing. Can you give some helpful hints to the humans sitting here today, if they are just finding out about this, or if they've just had enough of this write-in candidate law? What are their options? Who should they complain to? How should they complain? How do they make this not be a thing anymore because it's a stupid, disgusting thing? Thank you.
I tell everyone, at the elections office, we have a ministerial function. We are not the complaint police, anything like that, which I'm glad of that. So, what you can do is the Florida legislature that makes the election laws, and if there's any laws that you're not happy with, because, you know, people from both sides of the aisle, they don't like one thing or they don't like the other, they have to get in touch with their representatives that represent them. They can go outside of their local representation and talk to anyone that's in the Florida legislature if they want to make any changes to the law. I wish I could help you, but.
Can I say something from here, because I'm a little
Yes.
bit mobile? Is there, I noticed on the website, it says we could do an ethical complaint. Tell me the truth about those ethical complaints, do they actually go anywhere? Because the paper is just one piece of paper, and you have to say why you're complaining, and then that's it. That seems very minimal for an ethical complaint to Florida Elections Board.
I think what happens is, there's two different, there's the Florida Elections Commission where there's complaints for chapter 104 and 106 in the Florida statutes, if it has anything to do with that. And then there's the Commission on Ethics. So I think once the complaint form is filed, they do all the research. I usually don't hear what happens after that, and I think it's anonymous too, if I'm not mistaken.
So anyway, do it.
Mhm. Hey, Denny.
Anyway, we've talked about this before. You handle that, this is kind of a follow-on to that last question. I don't have a problem with your answer, but you've been in this business for a long time. Could you give us kind of a history lesson over the last, since you've been involved in elections? This closed primary issue has been around for a while, as you pointed out. What efforts have been made in the past? Not that you played a role in them, I know you couldn't do that, but give us a history lesson. What's happened in that regard? Is there any hope?
You know, I don't know how many times that it's been brought up in the Florida legislature. I usually stay out of that kind of thing because I don't make the laws, and, you know, sometimes you have one side that doesn't like something, but then again, sometimes you have other people that like that situation. So I have to stay completely neutral with, you know, what's going on. And, you know, we tell our election workers the same thing. When they're working for us, they have to be completely neutral. And there's two sides to every story. So like I said, I leave that up to the Florida legislators. You should go and talk to them if you have concerns about anything that has to do with the election law.
My name is Ellen Contreras, and in addition to what the Vice Mayor was saying, yes, it's egregious, it's heinous, it's horrible what happened, but now I'm wondering what could be done, because I feel like it's more than an ethics violation. I think that a law might have actually been broken by this young man, and I think that maybe something could be done about it, and what could we do? Because honestly, I really feel that it was just more than him deciding. He basically said a bunch of things that took away the rights of 58,000 people in this county for his own. He just took it upon himself, and I just think that that was so egregious. That can there be something more done to correct his actions?
Well, it's not illegal to be a write-in candidate at all. I mean, that's written clearly in the election code, and that's where you present these complaints and then they do the research, because I don't know if maybe somebody paid somebody or something, you know, that's where the ethics come in, and that's above my pay grade.
Less than the same subject, Mark, you didn't mention one thing, and that's the fact that he doesn't live in the district. Now, I thought I understood this thing pretty well until now, but it seems to me you have to live in the district at some point, probably before the election, but I've heard that someone said you have to live in it after the election.
Okay. Florida law has all different requirements for when someone has to live in the district. You represent the district, but for the Board of County Commissioners, it says in the Florida law at the time of election. So you can move at that point.
That means before the election?
It says at the time of election.
What if you don't, what if you file and screw up the election in terms of closing the primary? What if he doesn't move?
Well, he only has to move if he gets elected. Oh, I have a whole little sheet here on the residency guidelines. And it's different for different offices. So I don't know who made those laws up, but they're there.
Isn't it true that no write-in candidate has ever been elected?
I am not aware of any write-in candidate that's ever been elected. Any other questions?
I misunderstood. Do they have to live in the district on the day of the election, or if they win?
It says, and you would have to, it says at the time of election. So whether that means after the election is certified, because there's a lot of things that go on after election day that, you know, we meet 2 days after election day to go over all the provisional ballots to see if they count or not. So you would have a pretty idea if you were gonna win the election at that point.
You have to hire or marry an attorney.
Thank you so much.
So it's not a good conundrum, is it? But so we're all on a learning curve. And so Leslie, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And I thought you held up well to what you said all these years ago. I'm not a politician. I'm an election professional dedicated to serving the public. And I pledge that the services provided by the Elections Office will continue to be administered in an impartial and nonpartisan manner. So I thought you are doing exactly what you said so many years ago, and I think we're really lucky to have you. So again, we appreciate your time. Now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Jonathan Buckley. Jonathan is Irina Wolfley's son, and he, of course, helps with Let's Talk Vero. He's an incredibly gifted writer, but he would like to share with us tonight, and I'll get out of your way so you can run this laptop, just some of the slides that were made public early this year to outline what DPZ had suggested to the community in terms of how he and his group had suggested to maybe make some modifications for downtown. So Jonathan, it's so nice to have you. He just came back from USC, so it's all good.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Leslie, for that very informative talk. So we are cutting it close a little bit on time, so I'm going to be as quick as possible. As you know, my name is Jonathan Buckley, and today we're just going to quickly zoom through a few slides on what to expect from the Downtown Master Plan. As many of you know, there was a charrette in February which thousands of voters got engaged with and were willing to get behind Andres Tawani's vision. I'm going to go into a couple of highlights of this to refresh your memory. What you see here are some of the zones. The most important zone is A. This is the downtown walkable core, and it's central to all of the efforts underway. We hear a lot about parking, and according to the DPZ study, the city has an abundance of it, and it's severely underutilized. When it comes to incentivizing investment in our downtown core, parking is wealth, and wealth is power. And you'll be hearing a lot more about parking in the coming months leading up to the referendum. I'd like to show you one example of activating walkability in street life, which is arguably the most important component of the plan alongside workforce housing. What you see here is the intersection of 14th Avenue and 20th Street. And this is that same intersection reimagined with a raised speed table, shared street paving, and a pedestrian scramble as digital art lights up the nearby wall surfaces.
Jonathan, excuse me, could you get closer to the microphone?
Yes. Thank you. Another important component of walkability and that downtown livability is little things like streetlights. Andres did stress that the current lighting situation isn't ideal, not for people, not for retail, not for trees. In addition to basic things like bike racks, planters, and aesthetically pleasing trash cans. He also stressed that the current signage is outdated and awnings bring retail storefronts up to date beautifully. It's not that we don't have desirable retail, what matters is that people don't perceive it as such because our signage is stuck in the 80s, and so people in their minds think that the product offerings are still stuck in the 80s. New establishments aren't getting it right, such as curfew. If you saw what they did there, you would see what he's talking about. About workforce housing, like I said, this was an equally important part of the study and something that 85% of the survey takers really want for teachers, young professionals, first responders, etc. And this is an example of affordable workforce housing by a freshman learning center for teachers and other school staff. Another topic that will likely come up a lot as we move toward the referendum is the concept of the missing middle. So in suburbia, low density single family, the main amenity is the yard. And then on the opposite end of that spectrum is densely populated urban areas and high rises. The amenity there is the view. Now what's the amenity here? Street life. Importantly, the people that we want to bring to Vero Beach also want vibrant street life. Sorry, I'm not a little. One way to bring this vibrant street life is to incentivize alleyway art. Now this is the alley between 14th and 13th Avenues and 20th and 21st Street. And this is a great opportunity for private sector investment. We're already seeing this happen and it's very exciting. Another thing the DPC report recommends is creating a discernible town center or a town square with green space and parks right at the intersection of 14th and 20th, you know, the central intersection of downtown. And that can be complemented by upgraded retail all around. Now I'd like to talk about this critical missed opportunity. I'm sure you're all familiar with this intersection, right? This is US 1 and 20th and 21st Street. And the reason this is important is because nobody really knows our downtown exists because this intersection is designed to zip them right past it. 40,000 cars travel this route daily and there's no signage or anything or even a natural incentive to go straight instead of just turn right. So people go years just miss that vibrant downtown. So as you see, we need that prominent signage to take advantage of this great opportunity and really bring attention to our downtown core. I'm also going to really quickly run through some survey results. So when we asked people what would make them visit downtown more often, they said more restaurants and bars and a more aesthetically pleasing walking experience. Those are the most important two things. When we asked what type of housing they'd like to see, very overwhelming support for mixed use residential and retail, also workforce and attainable housing. And very unanimous decision here on whether upgraded and improved shopping, dining, and strolling experiences would increase the likelihood of downtown becoming a destination for them. So that about wraps that up. I'd like to bring your attention to the next steps. So on July 23rd, the City Council is going to meet and they're going to finalize the referendum language. And they're going to bring as much of what you said you wanted at the charrette to the ballot as they can. Also in the works is a citizen-led education and outreach program similar to the one that happened for Three Corners to help people better understand density and transfer of development rights. We will be in touch with more information. In the meantime, mark your calendars for the next Let's Talk Vero at Riverside events. The next ones are August 19 and September 16. And if you'd like to know more about the Downtown Master Plan, the Downtown Master Plan report is your definitive source for that. You can find that on covb.org under the Downtown page. But we will also be in touch as we know more. Thank you very much.
All right. I said, do you want to take any questions? Because I think you should move to Mr. Coutinho. But you did a great job. Thank you so much. I know when Jonathan showed me the slides earlier today, I told him I'd never seen more fender benders than that turn downtown that obviously 40,000 of us keep missing, and we just keep going on. But in any case, so it's my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. John Coutinho, who is our mayor. Yes, come on up, as they say. Yeah. Oh, you want to use this? Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that's all.
Can you hear me?
There she is.
Great, okay.
Yep, the
So-
young lady up there. So, yes, so,
All right.
thank you so much. We invited Mr. Coutinho so he could share with you some updates he has regarding Three Corners. So John, I'll turn it over to you, and then we'll open up for some more Q&A. And public service announcement is it's 6:32, and we've promised the theater that we would be out at 7. So the volunteers can obviously shut down. So at like 5 till 7-ish, If there's still some questions potentially going on, we would like for you to exit. And then you can visit maybe with John even outside if you wish in the commons area.
Be great.
Or he may run to the hall, I don't know. But so at 5 till 7-ish, we will politely exit. All right, thank you for joining us, we appreciate it.
All right. So, Three Corners. So we all are very interested in Three Corners. Is happening the 23rd, which is next Tuesday. City Council meeting is going to be a very busy City Council meeting because Three Corners and what we're going to be doing with Three Corners will come up at that meeting. How the proposal is going to go forward, some of the terms and conditions of how we want to implement that new proposal. Because the one thing we did do is we did learn. I hate to call it a mistake, but whatever happened, happened, and you learn from it, okay? I think it would have been a greater travesty if we didn't correct what happened. And we went out on a limb, and we did it, and took the heat for it, which is fine. That's why they pay us the big bucks. So that will happen. If you're interested, that's gonna happen at the City Council meeting on the 23rd. Now, you may not be able to attend, because it started at 9:30 in the morning. A lot of people here are busy with their lives, but it'll be available on video if you want to catch it later on that day. So that's gonna be a very important day as the City Council discuss the situation with staff, make the staff recommendations. All the members of the City Council have been feeding it to staff. Staff has been feeding back to City Council and how we believe proposals should look like, what corrections we would like to see in the process, and where we thought maybe there was failures in the past. So that's what's gonna happen on the 23rd. I can't get into too much detail because we have 2 other City Council members here, and it'd be a violation of the Sunshine Law, and I don't want an ethics complaint. So, so that's with that. The other thing, I will now take questions. If there's any other situation you have it, what's happening in the city, you have some questions on, you want to talk about downtown, you want to talk about Hummiston, you want to talk about, the latest decisions the City Council has made, what we're looking forward in the future, I'll entertain those questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do you think that, do you have any concerns that any of the 4 that participated may not participate in the second round?
So the question is,
Did you all hear the question? I'll repeat it real quick. Is there any chance the 4 that made the proposal in the past may not return for the second round, second attempt?
right. So, at this point in time, we have not heard, at least I haven't heard from staff that we've had any commitment of any of the 4 to return or any of the 4 not returning. We hope they will. There are some good proposals in that. Yeah, actually, we won't get into the specifics, but from my point of view, okay, there were some good proposals there. And we want those people to participate again. But we are right now, it's going to be open and it's going to be a longer period of time. We're not going to accelerate the process. That seems to be where we're going with this. There was a thought process to try to do it quicker. I don't think that's going to come to fruition. So this process is probably going to be similar to the process when it began, which will go out, we'll solicit responses. Hopefully we'll get at least 3 of the 4 people who bid last time to come back and see what else happens. But there'll be a different, the process of how we're going to go through that whole selection will be ironed out and will be related to the citizens with this meeting and after this meeting on the 23rd.
John?
Oh.
There's a recurring question we get at Let's Talk Vero.
Oh, no, go ahead, just yell it
Okay,
out.
all right, so it's a recurring question we get. what are the traffic implications, the parking implications at Three Corners, and are those gonna be taken into consideration on this second round? It seems to be.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we,
Do you want to repeat her
so
question?
the question was traffic implications and parking implications. And they're actually two separate subjects. So the traffic implications, traffic study's been done, the traffic study is in, and the results are there for, viewing by the citizens. The parking, that was part of the, let me say, I hate to use the word shortcoming. Put it this way, we could have tightened up I think we could have tightened up the dialogue and the narrative on the parking that had to be provided on the site. Now that site is going, that's going to be a large site. It's north side is 16 acres. As you saw the developments, there's going to be a lot of people working there, and there was only one proposal that accommodated the parking. The other things were, I'm not going to say, it just wasn't accommodated. Not just accommodated parking for people who are going to come there, but you got workers. Where are those workers who are working in hotels, working in restaurants, working on the concessions? They have to park somewhere too. And I think part of, at least how I'm going to view the future proposals, are they providing the type of parking that accommodates that type of population, all the populations that will be on the site. Beth?
Are you gonna be, hiring like a collier to market it out to the?
I haven't heard that yet. We're gonna go into some other ideas on how to select. That'll come out at the meeting. We've been talking back and forth to the staff again. To share that now, I don't think it would be appropriate because it's just ideas at this point in time having.
Considering the importance of the subjects that the council is going to be reviewing on July 23rd, would the council consider changing the time of the meeting to permit people who work to come to the council meeting after they come home from work?
It's too late because you have to notice, and the notice has already gone out for the meeting. We would have to. It's just too late at this point.
Did the council consider that?
It had been talked about, but it wasn't, not seriously considered, just wasn't, it wasn't voted that way. Sorry.
John, I have a question.
Sure.
Is the RFP going to be written a little bit differently to now solicit new developers? Or the same? But are you gonna make any tweaks to what you're asking for?
Yes.
That's a good.
See, and I'm being purposely vague because each one of the city council members were here, vice mayor, city council member, Carol is here also. I don't think anyone else is here. Okay.
Yeah, John
We've all had private conversations with staff. We meet with staff and the city manager on an ongoing basis. We have those private conversations. You can't daisy chain, which means one guy tells the other guy, who tells the other guy what the other guy is talking about.
Let me ask
Until you
another
have a city
question.
council meeting, so that'll all be discussed at the city council.
Right. So how about another question? How about, how long do you think it will take? So let's assume things roll along and the RFP is put together and now you have developers again make proposals. So best case, when do you think now you would vote again on a developer? And so when could we actually see someone start?
It'll be after the election. Because we're not going to accelerate the process. So how I put it from my timetable is either just going to be for, the holidays at the end of the year, or it's going to be just afterwards. And that's assuming everything goes by plan. We'll put a schedule together. That schedule, we get the right kind of feedback. We get actually the developers to come back to us. We get the right type of developers in, and all that thing. So it's probably just before or just after the holiday season. And so it will be a new sworn city council at that time. We have do this, I'll go do it. So we have two of our members here, we're up for re-election, and one seat is gonna be empty, because that council member is moving on. And so, and two of us will be there. Myself and council member Dingle will still be on the council. So, and that the council will vote.
Yes, ma'am, you have a question?
Yes, Bob?
Okay, I know, as far as downtown goes, what is the timeframe for some of these changes? Because I know that if you want to move forward with that a little more quickly, it's a little bit easier, like the lights and some of the planters and things, even the sidewalks. I mean, how soon can we expect some changes downtown?
Good point, good question. So the question is changes downtown. How will that take? Well, the first thing is the referendums. The referendums are in November. And once those referendums are hopefully approved, then we can go ahead and try to execute the master plan. A lot of that's gonna be in conjunction with the different entrepreneurs and landowners downtown. It's actually, although, Three Corners is this gigantic project, and downtown seems to be much smaller. In some ways, downtown is gonna be harder to implement than Three Corners, because in Three Corners, you go to a massive developer, and the buck kind of stops there, and you work with that master. Downtown is like somewhat herding cats. You have entrepreneurs, you have landowners, their motivations may not be exactly what your motivation is. They bought into the plan, but how do they buy into the plan? How do you incentivize them? There's a natural organic growth that's happened down there, but now you have to get, and you get a transfer, part of that is transferring development rights. How does that happen? So that's execution. That's gonna take some time. I'm not gonna promise you it's gonna happen quickly. But by getting the referendums passed, executing the plan, we began this over a year ago, or maybe almost 2 years ago. We began with just a little project of trying to get Pocahontas Park cleaned up. And we kind of worked that to that way. We got it cleaned up. It's a little bit better now to go visit there. We have the old-fashioned beat cop now down in the park, which makes a big difference, makes it a more citizen-friendly environment. So we're making little steps. As you all know, government does not work the fastest because there's a process in government, but we'll do it as best we can. I think we're all in alignment on the city council to get it done, and just a matter of execution and timing. That's it. Aubrey? I'll get you. I promise. They're next.
Were we told that the street lights were about to be delivered and installed?
I haven't heard that. I've heard that we have the street lights were ordered. There's been a supply chain issue with FPL on that. I haven't had an update on that recently, sorry.
Yes, the water treatment center at the bridge, the 17th Street Bridge.
Yes.
Water treatment center. Are you familiar with that?
I can't.
Water treatment center.
Oh, yes.
Water treatment center.
What'd you like to know? We're moving it. We're gonna move it.
I heard about the water treatment center, that's going to be moved.
That is correct.
And that was supposed to be last summer. And is that something that's gonna get done when they initially start the Three Corners again? Or will that be done separately to get prepared for Three Corners?
Good question. That is an totally independent project. That has to be done. That wastewater treatment plant, way past its useful lifetime. It has to come off the lagoon, and that is happening. Okay, we're going through a selection process now for construction management at risk. Manager was going to take it and run that. They've already ordered some of the equipment. They're factoring some of the supply chain issues they have there also. And that's probably a 3 to 4 year build once the first shovel goes in the ground, which is probably the first quarter of next year. But it has to coordinate with Three Corners, okay? Because they're integral to each other. That's 16 acres roughly on each side of the bridge. So those 16 acres on that side, which will be more recreation centric, That's where the community sailing center, formerly youth sailing, is gonna be. And they're actually building a park on the lagoon front there, which they're gonna manage for the benefit of all the citizens. It'll be open for the citizens. I think it's, it's gonna be an exciting time also as we get that, wastewater treatment plant moved. I mean, we have a lot of things going on in this city. I mean, I'm not even running for office this time. So here's my pitch is, we're a city of 17,000 people, and if you look at what we're doing, no offense to the county commissioner here, if you look at what we're doing here in this city, when we approach downtown, when we approach Three Corners, the water reclamation plant, yes. And trying to look at workplace housing. I mean, if I was, excuse me? Marina, thank you. And if you look at all that stuff, I mean, and you're a citizen of this city, I think you should be proud of the fact, and we do this, by the way, with a 5-person planning department.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
5
had
people.
another question.
Not 5, not 55.
Parking, okay, I may have missed the part about, I know that you were considering parking to be developed for the people who work at Three Corners, once that's developed.
And I said-
And people who may be living there. What about the people coming?
It has to be accommodated.
That we're inviting?
That has to be accommodated in the proposals. Parking has to have a kind of a multifunctional purpose. One is for the people who are gonna be there, one is for the people who are gonna visit, and of course the hotel.
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
You have one more question right over here, John.
okay.
I have a question about the density issue in the downtown. They said at the last meeting, saying it was only gonna affect certain streets, and it wasn't gonna affect areas where there's currently single-family houses.
That is correct.
How do we see the map, or how do we get information on which streets and where this
Sure.
increased density is gonna exactly
I-
take place?
I would, let's talk Vero Arena, and Vero has sponsored this whole thing and put on a forum here and a platform to hash this out and have a discussion about it. So that, I believe, is gonna come up, and you'll see it. It's a 50-acre site. It's a 50-acre site. It's considered the core part of downtown, and it's well defined. Essentially 14th Avenue, roughly 14th Avenue from 21st over to around where the Flick is, and over to the railroad tracks, and over to 19th, I believe.
Is there a map?
That's the rough area, but there is a map. There is a map, and you'll be able to look at a map and understand.
Yeah, Irina probably can post, there is a master plan, it's 88 pages long, and I think we went through it last time. I think on page 18 is a picture that highlights just what sections of downtown would be impacted regarding your density question.
But it does not encompass any single-family housing.
It does not.
It does not.
It does not.
I think that was.
I think it does not. It doesn't bleed into the Osceola Park neighborhood, or Kansas Park, or Old Town for that matter. It's really the core area of 14th.
Well, there's single-family housing in the Arts District. It is not the Arts District. The Arts District has its own.
Yes,
Gentlemen.
I bring you back to the Three Corners. You said there's already a master plan for a traffic study. There's a proposal, in the prior proposals I didn't see any ingress egress other than the 2 driveways to accommodate southbound traffic on Indian River Boulevard. Is that any consideration? And who would pay for that upgrade? Because if you have an event going there, cars coming down southbound Indian River Boulevard, they have to make a U-turn, or they're gonna have to come around off 16th or 17th Street.
That is really, as you move this process of Three Corners forward, that's really kind of in the later stages as Three Corners is developed, even before it's developed. As you go to it has to go to planning and zoning, planning and zoning has to approve this, of course, it's gonna have what you described, you know, there's a traffic study already done, there's going to have, entrance and exits, into the site, and, all that will be accommodated.
Right, 'cause I could see a big traffic jam at the U-turn there going on the 17th Street Bridge, it backs up, yeah. Thank you.
Could be, but hopefully there's so many people there, it's great.
Yeah.
So, we'll make you the last question.
Well,
Okay, so the 17th Street Bridge is part of the Three Corners. And I was wondering how friendly that was going to be made for the public coming to enjoy that whole area. So, right now, it's not friendly to bikers and walkers. There's very little room on the sides of the bridge. The speed limit is way over the top. There's been people injured on that.
the bridge, is out of the city's control. The bridge is controlled by FDOT,
So
okay?
will you be reaching out to them?
Yes. I mean, we're not, and I don't want to be flip on that, but you know.
He's gonna take you with him.
You have to work with FDOT, and working with FDOT is multi-years in advance, and we just, you know, we're gonna be doing something with the Twin Piers. Same thing, you know, that discussion happened, and it's not, everybody think, well, they're gonna be starting tomorrow. No, they're starting about 3 or 4 years from now, but we had to get this thing settled now. Same thing with the bridge, you know, we understand there's an issue with the bridge, but it's out of the control of the city. The bridge, and I think the A1A and all the way to the Indian River is FDOT's responsibility.
So what is present, you would want to keep that at the forefront, and that's the bridge. Everything's gonna go around the bridge. And I don't know about your family, but my little ones, they wanna go on the bridge.
Yeah,
If we
but
go on the bridge,
getting direct access from the three-corner site to the bridge, I'm not gonna say it's impossible, because, you know, any person can figure out how to get one someplace to someplace, I will never say that. But there's not gonna be direct access to the bridge from any of the three-corner site. That is not in the plans. Okay, it is not in the plans, somebody wanna correct me, who's on the city council, I never saw it in the plans. There's connections under the bridge from north site to south site, but there's no direct access to the bridge from the site. None. Zero.
but there
Nada.
was, there is access now.
No, there isn't. You cannot get from the site to the bridge. You can get out of the site, you can go down the sidewalk, you can get on the road, you can get over the bridge. But you cannot, from this actual site, climb onto the bridge. It's impossible. Well, no, excuse me, I won't say that.
So, I had the pleasure of welcoming you an hour and a half ago, and now I also have to do the job to ask you to adjourn, and so it was a treat to see all of you.
I'd like to thank Vero and for providing this forum for everybody, because I think this has been a really great dialogue for us. Jonathan, thank you for the overview.
We'll have 2 more meetings, August 19th and September 16th. Again, thank you all for joining us tonight.
You don't look like a professional.